Hi, Sabina. Thank you for joining our call today. As you know, we are raising awareness for mental health and just to bring the word out there, because there's not much of it advertised or going on.
Mhm.
So, first of all, do you have a story that you want to share with the public? What you've been through, your personal experience, and everything?
Oh yeah, as a matter of fact, Anastasia, I do have an experience considering the fact that I just finished my last submission for my MA at the University of Leeds. So I don't know if this is the time or opportunity for me to share that now.
Yes, you can do.
Okay,
Yes, of course.
okay, that's fine. During the last few 2 to 3 months, we were tasked with writing our final year project, that is our thesis. And for me particularly, the systems, I was in the University of Leeds, I'm pursuing an MA in Global Development, and the systems and the things I had gone through were somewhat new because I am an international student. So I felt quite pressured because not only was I tasked to write it, I also had some issues I was dealing with from back home. Um, my best friend, who's more like a sister to me, lost her dad. And as I said, I had some personal stuff going on back at home. So, and it's sort of conflicted with the timeline expectations for the delivery of my thesis proposal to my supervisor. So I actually was a bit delayed. I was late by 2 weeks initially to have submitted my draft proposal. I received a mail from my supervisor um, requesting for it and all. But really, the point is I suffered a lot of mental blocks, because of everything I was dealing with. I was worried. I was worried over things I couldn't control. I was just tensed. I had difficulty sleeping. And eventually, when I was able to start with my proposal, with my draft proposal, and I eventually sent in my first draft, it got a huge rejection from my supervisor. She was seriously unimpressed by what I sent. So that went even further to just dampen my mood and my enthusiasm for the assignment before me. So yes, well, as I speak to you now, I'm done with the work, but I have to tell you, it wasn't without a lot of self strong self motivation, and eventually I had to speak to a pastor friend of mine from back home in Ghana, and he was able to help me compartmentalize the emotions I was dealing with, the feelings I was dealing with, in order for me to at least put my MA, my thesis together. Someone would ask if there weren't strategies in place for me to be able to employ by the school. Yes, strategies were in place. We have a students' union. We have a personal tutor you could speak to and all. But however, I don't do too well with speaking to strangers about things I find really personal or dear to my heart. So the only person I made an attempt to address this with was my personal tutor, but she wasn't readily available. I think she was swamped. And so eventually I just fell on a friend who was in the same accommodation with me, shared my experiences with her, including the fact that my first, second, and third proposals were not the ideal fits for my supervisor. So I think that's about a summary.
So, would you say um, it was a mixture like of stress, anxiety, all in one, and it
Yeah,
just got a bit too much, basically?
Definitely at a point it did. I recall I stayed up till late one evening. I stayed up till about 1:30, 2 a.m. just trying to, put in the work in my proposal. And at a point I just felt like oh my God, what's
Yes.
all the essence of all of this? I was so stressed and I just needed an outlet. I think I took to my LinkedIn. I took to writing, making a post on my LinkedIn. Well, the post was more for myself, speaking to myself, that
Mhm.
basically was my own attempt to encourage myself. That in my post, I wrote that I'm up, I'm stressed, I'm tired, I've not slept much, and my proposal is not necessarily meeting the standards of my supervisor. Notwithstanding, I didn't come this far just to come this far. I came I came this far because
Yes.
I had a vision in mind. I had a set goal in mind. So this is just to encourage myself. And this is just for me to refer to in probably 6 months or a year from now and laugh at the struggles of today. So
Exactly.
that's
And
what.
yeah, that's very true. And you
Mm-hmm,
seem like a strong character.
mm-hmm.
So, um, so what would you say your coping mechanisms are? Like, do you have any coping strategies?
Mm-hmm,
Is it
mm-hmm.
to talk to someone, like therapy? Is it to just take a deep breath in and out? Because I know taking a deep breath, inhaling and exhaling also helps. Like, what are your strategies to advise the people who is also going through the same?
Okay, so initially, I know about the inhaling and exhaling exercise, but I never really practiced it until recently, and I felt how relieving it could be. So true inhalation and exhalation is a real strategy to apply to oneself. However, what I think what helped me immediately was you recall I told you that I was able to confide in a friend back in my accommodation.
Yes.
So, she's not necessarily a therapist, but she has a listening ear. She's patient. She's understanding. Like she's a go-to person for such situations. So that was one thing. And another thing I said was I spoke to a pastor friend of mine. So I'd also suggest speaking to an authority in your life whom you highly regard or highly esteem, who you know can give you valid advice, practical advice that will help you commit to what you need to do and move on. Appreciate that life is a gift. And then, so long as there's life, there's hope. There's always room to be better. There's room for improvement. So that authority for me was my pastor friend. He's a pastor, but he's a friend. So that authority for anyone else could be anybody else, so long as you highly regard or esteem the person. Yes. So that was it, personal to me. Those were the strategies I employed, personal to me. And then of course, last off, I had a place to more or less rant. I used LinkedIn. So for others, it could be a personal diary, or I don't know, a notepad, or it could be their LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever. Wherever it is they feel they could channel, they could use as an outlet to channel whatever it is they were feeling, whether to encourage themselves or whether to air out a grievance they're experiencing.
Yes. And apparently, if you also write things down, it
It,
also does help you. It's
yes.
just about finding ways because everyone is different.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is going through different things and they have different ways to overcome this. So whatever works for you, but that's a good way. And we should always have like a positive mindset as well. Always try to think positive. Um, and yeah, because obviously tomorrow is not promised, is it? So, um, and do you feel this experience has made you a stronger person?
Definitely. It
It,
definitely has. definitely.
Yes, that's really good. And do you feel taking medication would help? Or do you think it's the natural remedies that help better for the mental health? What do you think?
I think that so long as your mental health hasn't bordered onto hasn't shown you've not reached a stage where you begin to show clinical symptoms of acute mental health, such as like depression and anxiety attacks, um, I would not necessarily suggest that using medication would be the first route, because I'm always concerned that when you hit that point, you feel the need, you begin to think that the only thing you can depend on is the medication. And when care is not taken, it begins to dwell, or it begins to dive into what may look like an addiction, that you may
Yes.
depend on these medical aids. So I didn't take any medicines. Of course, I felt some headache at a point, and I did take medicine, painkiller for the headache, but beyond that I didn't take any sort of antidepressants or drugs for anything. I had difficulty sleeping, but I just had to wait till I could naturally get back to my sleeping pattern. It took a long while. It took a lot of work on my part, but eventually, as I speak to you, I'm back to that pattern. And of course, it was during that moment, that tense and anxious moment. So I knew that once that moment passes, my systems will fall back into my original pattern.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that it's always better to take natural remedies.
Mm-hmm.
I think, but it depends, but the easy way out is to take tablets.
Yeah, I know,
But
right?
you know,
I know.
so the last question is, what do you think is the main cause to lead to mental health? The main cause.
The main cause to lead to mental health.
Yes. Or you don't think there's no main cause?
It's funny you ask that, Anastasia, because I think it's different for everybody. It's different for every individual. What may cause me to have a mental breakdown may be different from what may cause you to have a mental breakdown. Yes.
Yes, that does make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
What I think may be so challenging that may cause me to be so anxious may rather cause another person to be challenged to spur on. So I don't think I can place one particular I can mention one particular factor, one particular thing that may cause it. Of course, there's the death aspect. I mean, the death of a loved one is always something that may you know
or a
that
heartbreak,
yes,
someone
definitely.
breaking up with you.
Right.
So yeah, I know what you mean. It's any of these things that can be
Yeah.
a cause. Yeah. And what else I'm thinking? But I would say stress is the.
Definitely. Definitely.
But I
Stress.
know what you mean. It's very a broad area.
So for me, mine was compounded stress from
Okay.
different factors. But Anastasia, another thing I did as a strategy that was personal to me. I'm a Christian. I am a very strong Christian. So one thing I do all the time is to pray. So for me, that's an effective strategy as well. So I guess
Yes, I
that goes,
agree.
yeah.
But yeah. that is also an effective strategy. Whatever works for you, really.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah. So, have you got any questions for me?
No questions per se, just that I hope that this mental health awareness actually, I hope it actually motivates someone. I hope it actually helps someone who's going to watch or listen. And I hope it's able to stop someone from tipping off to doing something that he or she cannot come back from.
Yes, I
Yeah.
think so, because that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
To sort of raise that awareness, because we don't know what people are going through.
Not at all. Not at all.
So
it pays just to be kind, to put in a kind word to everybody, because some people just are very intentional about putting on a brave front to the world. But whatever it is they are going through, we wouldn't know.
it's true. It's very, very true. Even celebrities, like, they go through all sorts, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So I'm just going to stop the recording.
Sure.
Thank you very much.